It's midday right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Lunchtime Politics, where we binge through the big happenings in politics and in the polity at midday. And of course, Rivers is in focus, and the reasons are obvious. Because yesterday, the president that actually made that declaration, lifting the emergency rule that has been in force since March this year. And the governor is expected to return to his office after the sole administrator vacated yesterday. So the governor, his deputy, and members of the House of Assembly are expected to resume duties today. As we speak, the House of Assembly is meeting, and the governor is being expected. Lots of crowd of people at the premises or the government house premises. So there seems to be a resurgence of excitement, but the jury is divided over how that has been for the last 6 months. But let's take a listen to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Adegbaruwa, who was on our program earlier today, the morning brief, on his take as to what has played out under the administration in the last 6 months so far.
This is an unfortunate development. I see it as an aberration, something that ought not to happen at all, given our democratic experience. And that's why I thought that there ought not to be any form of celebration, as it were. There's a reason for a single individual, such as the president, with all due respect, to interfere with that mandate. The circumstances should be spelled out within the Constitution. Everybody is expecting the judiciary to give a definitive pronouncement that will guide people so that nobody will have excuse to take the laws into his hands or act beyond the powers granted by the Constitution. Nigerians are entitled to know from the president who was exercising oversight responsibilities over the sole administrator, from the National Assembly, in terms of accountability and transparency. How much was received during this period, and what was it used for? What were the powers and the nature of those powers exercised by the sole administrator? Coming back to power now, the governor should realize the need for tolerance. As an executive leader in a state, you can't walk alone. I mean, presenting budget to 3 people. The House of Assembly should understand the nature and limit of their powers. You are legislators. You cannot take over the role of the executive.
There's going to be a lot of commentary as far as this chapter is concerned in Rivers State. Well, I have a couple of people I'll be speaking to. Our correspondents are already standing by in Port Harcourt, but I'm also bringing in our guest, who we're going to talk to later on the program extensively. He's a lawyer and public policy analyst. He joins us from our Abuja studio, Mr. Nazer Sunusi. Mr. Sunusi will be joining us in just a moment to explain or give his own perspective on this issue. But I understand that Deborah Agbalama, a correspondent in Rivers State, Port Harcourt, he's ready to give us an update, because he was earlier today at the government house premises where the governor is expected to, and the governor and the deputy are expected back in office. That hasn't happened as at the last time we checked. So people are gathered. So Deborah, if you can hear us, maybe you give us some insight into what you're seeing and what you're hearing at about this time. Deborah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Joe. I can hear you.
Yes, I was asking you to...
Good afternoon, and well, it's still same from the morning period till now. Some people have been here since all the way from 6:30 at the front of the government house. But the thing is, at the morning period, it was just around the government house gate. But as I speak with you, this crowd has extended towards Abani Mawom Junction, Port Harcourt boy, and you understand where Abani Mawom Junction is from the government house front. So it's a crowd of people from government house gate all the way to Abani Mawom Junction. Crowd of people here, but not sight of the governor yet. People are waiting, from the old and the young, the women, men, political, non-political class. It's just been like a carnival in front of the government house. Several bands are playing, several instrumentals, you know. It's just been people dancing and singing, but no sight of the governor yet. I've also asked questions. Is he coming? They say, yes, he's certainly coming. But when? We do not know. But that is what it is. Rivers people are anticipating the resumption into office after the declaration yesterday by the president that the 6-month suspension has been called off. I understand that the assembly is already sitting, so one would expect that the governor is also going to be resuming as well. But we're waiting for him, and there is no statement as to his whereabouts, when he's coming, but they are all certain that he is going to come.
Yeah, Deborah, absolutely. We're also keeping tab as to what's happening in the government house. The movement of the governor, whom we understand was not even in the country, but should be, I guess he's back, but should be in Port Harcourt today. So we're keeping tab on that as well. But have you been able to speak to any politician, any of the political people or political class? Because I know earlier when we spoke to you, we were speaking to people like you and I, the regular, citizens of the state. And what are the feelers you get from the political class? Because they are significant in this whole process.
Okay, well, the feelers from the political class that I got from the interviews I had with them earlier on today is the fact that they're all seeming to agree that the peace has returned, and they're certain that it's going to be lasting. I spoke to one of the stakeholders from the governor's local government area, one of the APC stalwarts, and he did say that the governor is certainly going to work with the assembly, that they are certain of that. But one thing that is obvious is that I haven't cited, I saw 1 or 2 people from the other side, but I haven't seen any major face that is on the other side. Well, they said they are not sides anymore. It's now one. So I would say those known faces that are supporting the FCT minister before they united, all right? I haven't spotted any major face, but I see some obscene supporters. But I must say that the crowd of people here are not known faces. They are basically day-to-day, normal, regular next-door people that are gathered here. So that's what I can say. The political class, they seem very optimistic that it's going to work. The peace is going to work, and everything will work out very well.
When I hear the peace is going to work, my natural instinct says amen. Okay, so Deborah, thank you so much for your reporting, and if there's need, we're going to touch base with you as we look out for the governor and his deputy to return. But let's switch gears now to Charles Oporom, who has, we've seen videos, seen the House of Assembly. We're going to show you those videos, the House of Assembly resuming their plenary, and trying to look at some of they have an agenda for today, try to capture it as possible. Well, Charles is going to bring us up to speed. Charles Oporom is our correspondent who is covering the River State House of Assembly, so you can see what is going on there now. Charles, if you can hear me, bring us up to speed what the plenary agenda is for today. All right, Charles, maybe you can unmute. I just wanted you to let us in. We can see the Speaker, Martin Ameule, and the members of the House of Assembly who have already started plenary. Major Jack has released a statement, who is the House leader, motion to set legislative agenda for the remaining part of the 3rd session of the 10th Assembly of Rivers State. Maybe bring us up to speed as to what is going on in terms of the conversations within the hallowed chambers. Charles?
I can hear you. Can you hear me clearly? Please confirm.
Yes, I can hear you. Did you hear my question?
Yes, I did hear your question. I heard it fully. So, yes, you are correct. The assembly is currently sitting in that building just behind me. I had to come out to do this. The documents you are scrolling on the screen is the motion as moved by the leader of the House, the Right Honorable Major Jack, is a sponsor, and then there are 9 other co-sponsors. But interestingly, that particular document, which you scrolled, is actually a summary, because what he actually read on the floor is a bit more comprehensive and exhaustive, than what we have here. But what is pertinent to note here is this: the Assembly is asked, they've commended Mr. President for restoring peace to River State. Then they have asked the governor to clarify whether he's going to be presenting another budget to this Assembly, or if he's going to be working with the budget that was passed for the state by the National Assembly. And then, of course, they've also requested that the governor should send a list of commissioner nominees, so that the state executive cabinet, the cabinet will be ready, to provide some form of governance and leadership to the state, since the sole administrator and his people left at 12 midnight yesterday. So the debate is actually ongoing right there. Different lawmakers have been, making their thoughts known with regards to the issue of presenting a budget and a list of commissioner nominees to this assembly so that they can move forward in the coming months before the year ends. Jeff.
All right, Charles, well, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed. We'll touch base with you as well if anything new happens, but I'm sure you want to rush back in to continue with what is playing out at plenary. This is the first meeting after 6 months. I think the last sat on the 12th of March before the pronouncement of the president suspending them. And I see the tone. It looks like there's going to be a collaboration, and I see some new cars as well. It looks like new days and good days ahead. We hope
exactly. Brand new SUVs.
Yeah. So, as you know, they didn't let us in on what the settlement terms were, but we'll watch. Where they say we're tatafos. Certainly, we'll pick it.
Thank you, Jeff. Of course.
And find it. So, thank you for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, let me bring you my guest from Abuja Studios. Mr. Neze Sunusi is a lawyer and public policy analyst, joins us from Abuja Studio. Mr. Sunusi, thank you so much for coming on the program. Oh dear, so while we try to resolve that with Mr. Sunusi, let me, my producer is going to help me scroll the document that the State Assembly, because Rivers is in focus today, and the reason is very clear. After 6 months of that suspension lifted yesterday by the president, everybody is expected to return to work. The governor, deputy, and the members of the House of Assembly who are already seated. Eyes are on the government house, loads of crowd. When she was explaining to me that from the government house to a place called Bonima Wharf Junction, for those of you who are familiar with Port Harcourt, if I use Lagos as an illustration, for those who are familiar with Lagos, like Opik to, say, Berger bus stop and that stretch. So loads of crowd, people converging to welcome the governor after that suspension. But it's interesting, some of the points to note as far as the motion that is being read on the floor by the House leader. His name is Major Jack. He talked about, they draw the attention of Governor Simila Fubara that the 10th Assembly is ready to work with him with a view of moving the state forward. And they are urging him as a matter of priority to submit to the House the list of commissioner nominees for screening and confirmation as members of the State Executive Council. They're urging the governor to whether going forward he will work with the appropriation law, that's the state budget passed by the National Assembly because they were not sitting, or he will submit a new appropriation law to the House. Urged the House to explore prospects of knowing what transpired during the 6 months of the emergency rule with regard to the utilization of funds accrued to the state vis-a-vis the performance of the appropriation law that was passed by the National Assembly. They're also imploring the House to critically examine the imperative of reviewing old legislation that seemed to be anachronistic and come up with new bills that would address contemporary realities and several other. But let's bring in our guest. I suppose he's ready now, Mr. Sunusi. If you can hear me, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, esteemed sir.
All right, fantastic, Mr. Sunusi. So we'd like you to weigh in on this particular issue. I don't know how much you know about the politics of Rivers State, but as a public affairs analyst, you follow these things critically and you've seen what has played out in the last 6 months. But I'd like to ask you questions around the tone of the House of Assembly. It looks like they are saying, look, let bygones be bygones. Let's look for a new plate to serve this new dish so that the people of the state can come to the table and benefit in terms of the governance or what we call the dividend to democracy. What do you make of the situation in Rivers State right now?
Thank you so much for asking me this very important question. Permit me to begin by saying that ab initio, I'm not in support of invocation of emergency rule in Rivers State because it is in clear violation of Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. However, since democracy has returned to Rivers State. That is a welcoming development, and we are in support of it. And I do honestly believe that political agreement has been reached between the state governor, members of the National Assembly, and the godfather of the current governor, that is Johnson Wiki. So I believe that the members of the State Assembly and the governor will work harmoniously, since up initio the crisis is all about politics. It is purely a political crisis which can be solved without invocation of emergency rule. It is just a political crisis, and now the governor has agreed to play to the tune of the former governor, and I believe that they will cooperate with him.
So what kind of government, how do you think is going to navigate what a lot of people are seeing as the obvious challenge? So the members of the House of Assembly are loyal to his political godfather. The local government chairman that were just elected under very controversial circumstances are also loyal to the godfather, his political godfather. Appointments and board, I think as at till yesterday or 2 days ago, there were still new appointments by the sole administrator. Literally, they just said, we've set this bed, and this is how you want to lay on it. How do you think he can navigate this as a chief executive of the state?
As I said earlier, Fubara has agreed to play to their tune. So I don't think that he will face any problem moving forward. Why? Because he has agreed to play to their tune. He will do whatever he will do whatever the former governor wants him to do. So the state House of Assembly members are under the control of the former governor. So if the current governor will continue to be loyal to the former governor, I believe they will cooperate with him. And if, yeah.
All right, fantastic. But as we begin to wind down, let's look at how this will impact our polity and our jurisprudence, because there are two parts to it. I'm more interested in the legalese of it. You've mentioned that you do not agree with the president. A lot of people do not agree with him as well. He admitted to the fact that people did not agree. In fact, he mentioned that 40 cases are in court, but I said that is actually the beauty of democracy. He put a lot of logic, but the debate is around the law. In going forward, if you are to make a recommendation, because for some reasons, inexplicable reason, the Supreme Court has not made a pronouncement on the powers of the president and how much of his discretionary latitude can come into force when it comes to emergency rule. So we saw former President Olusegun Obasanjo do what the current president has done, and he got his own backlash. Now this president has done it, and there's the backlash. But all that is needed is for a pronouncement of court to say how far can he go, because there's nothing in the law that suggests that, because the governor of a state is not accountable to the president, he's accountable to the people that elected him. Local government chairman accountable to the people that elected him. Our president is accountable to us, not to any other person. So what would you say about this confusion, as it may?
Thank you so much once again. Legally speaking, we have not learned anything since the matter has not been heard before the apex court, that is Supreme Court, and now the matter has become an academic exercise. So jurisprudentially speaking, we have not learned anything, and I believe that in the next time, since this thing will happen again, the Supreme Court should rise to the occasion when such matter is brought before the court, should be treated with all the urgency it deserves, so that we can have a binding precedent, so that we should understand whether the president has power to suspend and remove elected officials or not. So we need a pronouncement of the Supreme Court to that effect. Then politically speaking, we have learned a bad precedent. Maybe in the next president or even current president may If something happens, a purely political crisis, he may decide to suspend the governor or decided to suspend the members of the State Assembly together with the governor, which is unconstitutional. And even Article 13 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights clearly stated that people in Africa, people should not be ruled except through their democratic representative. So politically speaking, we have learned a bad precedent, and legally speaking, we have not learned anything since the Supreme Court was unable to hear the matter. And the matter now is an academic exercise.
Well, a senior advocate of Nigeria who we spoke to, a senior colleague of yours today, said whether academic or not, there should be a finality to that pronouncement. So it should go all the way to the Supreme Court. And I hope it does, so that we put this matter to rest once and for all. And then I want to read the very last part of the president's statement when he, returned the state back to democratic rule, lifting that emergency rule before I let you go. And a lot of people have been interpreting this to be a veiled threat. I said, I take this opportunity to remind the governors and the houses of assembly of the state of our country to continue to appreciate that it is only in an atmosphere of peace, order, and good government that we can deliver the dividends of democracy to our people. I implore all of you to let this realization drive your actions at all times. Some people are saying that statement sounds like a veiled threat. What do you make of that particular line of the statement?
It's purely political. As I said earlier, I believe that Fubara has agreed to their terms, so they will already cooperate with him since they reach political agreement. So I believe that particular paragraph is purely political, and the president has achieved what he intended to achieve by declaring the state of emergency to bring the governor under the control of his former boss or his political godfather, that is Yanson Wiki. So that is it.
I must thank you so much. Naza Sunusi, lawyer and public policy analyst. We appreciate you for coming on the program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Let's tell you that the resident electoral commissioner for the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Aminu Idris, is urging residents of the state of the nation's capital to take advantage of the ongoing continuous voter education or registration to be able to vote in the area council election scheduled for early next year. Mr. Aminu made the call during a transensitization exercise in Abuja. He assured FCD residents of the readiness of the electoral umpire to ensure everyone who desires to participate in the electoral process to participate is properly captured, stating that all initial challenges have now been surmounted.
Our message is for them to turn out and be registered. And then those who have amendments to make can do the amendments online so that it will give us enough time to print their PVCs, which they can collect in October. So far, it's very encouraging. I think since we started from the online registration to the in-person registration, the turnout has been heavy. Even here at the Area 10 office, we had, I think we registered a lot of people turning out every morning. So it's encouraging. And by the time we move to the RA level on the 29th, I think more people should be able to come out and participate. The challenge was at the initial stage of the in-person registration where the crowd was a bit much, but we had cooperation from the police and were able to organize them, and they are now treated in batches.
All right, so before we go, let's remind you that our eyes and our ears and our people, literally a couple of our correspondents are all over the place in Rivers State to capture every moment of what is playing out after democracy, proper democracy has been restored in the state at midnight today. So Deborah Agbalama, Charles Oporum, Joshua, all of them bring you up to speed as we continue to broadcast throughout the rest of the day. The governor isn't back into government house yet, neither is deputy, so we're watching and expecting him to arrive. But the members of the House of Assembly are now sitting in their very first plenary after 6 months, and they have opened their arms to say, we're ready to work with you, submit your commissioner nominees for us to screen, and if you want to work with the old budget, fine. If you want to present a new one, fantastic. We're ready to work with you. So it looks like the body language of all sides, at least for now, and we hope forever, as long as this tenor lasts, seem to be that of peace as we begin to walk and watch what plays out in the politics, the dynamic and ever intriguing politics of Rivers State. But we must thank you. That's how much you can take on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.